Hey, this is Deborah Atkinson, the Voice for Fitness. So the number one mistake that you're making when it comes to abdominal exercises to prevent back pain or to give you a flat belly, crunches and sit-ups. And I know that's a shocker, especially if you're 40 or over. You are weaned on the idea that crunches and sit-ups were your go-to exercise. We seem to think that lying on the floor doing forward flexion against gravity, which is what you're doing in a crunch or a sit-up, is what will give you the core that you want, the six-pack abs that you want, and that if you feel the burn, you must be doing good. And it's just not true. So, and here's why. Several things happen. Whether or not you experience any pain right now, you are building to it. So we have chronic problems, most of us, because of our modern day work life and even our leisure life. We still come home and we open up our laptops, right? We spend a lot of time crunched over a keyboard, a lot of us. And because we have that posture going on, as we do crunches and sit-ups, we actually are adding to that problem. So we do a lot of pulling on the neck, even if you're not feeling it. So you don't have to know it yet, but it's a chronic problem, and that means over time it's developing. And you won't know it until you have that first little ping of pain. That'll be your first symptom. And like most people, you'll ignore it until it gets worse. And then because you have a habitual exercise habit, you will probably continue a little bit further than that, and your pain will have to reach a certain level before you'll stop doing what's causing it in the first place. So the neck, the upper back, shoulders, that's one area. The second place where things get problematic is your lower back. Actually, the very thing that you might be trying to protect by getting your abs stronger is actually compromised. So some of the discs and the smaller vertebra in your lumbar area, kind of between your rib cage where that ends and where your hips begin, that area is generally the most problematic as far as pain goes for Americans. And you're putting it at risk and compromising it when you're doing forward flexion exercises. Sit-ups are worse because it's worse range of motion or greater range of motion. Crunches can be made safe, but most of us don't go for safety. We go for the burn. And that is not an indication, by the way, that something is working. It's just an indication of something physiological that we don't need to go into right now. But it is not a great factor for deciding if something is effective. So those things, as well as hip flexors, tend to get tighter when you're doing crunches and you're doing sit-ups. When you think about what your grandparents look like, maybe your parents, depending on your age level, at 80 or 90 years old, most older adults look something like this. They have chronic tight hip flexors. They have chronic weak and lengthened lower back. Their core and center, rib cage and hips are closer together. Their shoulders are rounded. This should look to you like a crunch. So when you do crunches and sit-ups, you are actually promoting that posture. And the problems that we tend to have anyway, that maybe we don't see them quite yet in our 40s, our 50s, and our 60s, if we exercise enough so that we try to stand more erect and we're conscious of our posture, we can still correct for it. At some point, we won't be able to. So there are dozens of exercises, more effective, that will not prevent pain and are not building up to those chronic problems, and that actually help you get the flatter belly that you're after.